0 is 0. Y3 and 0 is 2. And Y4 and 0 is 1. This one we have. So good afternoon everyone and welcome back to the class on Tribo. So if we remember in the last session what we were dealing up. So we had started with the theory of friction, right? And we also measured about different measuring methods for friction which comes into picture. So in the previous class we spoke previous class we were dealing with the deformation theory. So in the last class we started with what are the measuring methods which are available to measure the friction? So we dealt about all the four methods which are there. So we started with inclined plane rig method. Then we went on with pin on disc rig, right? And then we came to conformal and non-conformal geometry rig. So why we use this in what need. And then later we went to know about the importance of the environmental aspects when measuring the friction in any given mechanical components. So how to stimulate an environmental condition as required to get a good yield of the mechanical component with reduced wear and tear. So we dealt across the environmental control. So those were the four methods what we used to measure our
Excuse me, ma'am.
friction. Yeah,
Ma'am, we're unable to hear you clearly, ma'am.
is it?
Yes, ma'am. If you can just move the mic a little away from your mouth, it will be a little better, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll just try. Is it fine now? Hello, am I audible properly?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So fine. So that way the measuring methods, what we use to measure the friction. Then we came into the subsection, how you need to know the importance of friction, which comes into picture with respect to metals, yeah, non-metals. So we started with friction, which come into picture with respect to metals. We took an example of gold and we just dealt with it. And later we went on with the different properties of the metals which come across related to the friction when it is used separately and when it is clubbed with some alloys. So when it is self-mated, some are the values of friction what you get. When it is on the mild steel, the friction value drastically reduces in many of the material. So this was just the data which was took from one of the journal to show you the difference if you have similar mating component, how the coefficient of friction will be, and if you have different mating components, how the coefficient of friction would be. So here there was some example related to metals and its alloys, what we discussed in the last class. And later we also dealt about the effect of oxygen on the given iron when it is pressurized under a vacuum chamber. So we spoke about how the amount of vacuum is increased. So then the amount of oxygen which is applying on the rest also will be increased with a pressurized way. So when you're impacting oxygen on the surface of the iron, what happens is the coefficient of friction increases rapidly due to pressurized application of oxygen. So we had dealt until here. So now from today's class, we have to now explain the effect of coefficient of friction for different metals. So here the graph you can see, it shows an graph. Okay, so where you are applying the normal load on the copper. So you know whenever a given material is subjected to some type of load or the pressure due to the moment, so coefficient of friction comes into picture. So here the concept is you are using the copper against copper in which you are subjecting a particular normal load across the contact and it is not lubricated. And this copper is exposed to open atmosphere. It is not kept in any inert atmosphere or in a closed chamber or in any controlled environment like a vacuum chamber. It is held in an open air theater. Okay, so in that case, when you don't have the lubricant also, when you are applying a particular normal load across the rolling or the sliding movement of the given mechanical component, how the coefficient of friction varies. So as the load increases, you can see that the coefficient of friction is increasing drastically. So when the normal load is almost near to 1 Newton, from there onwards, you can see that the coefficient of friction is held like stationary. You are getting an optimized value of coefficient of friction even though you are increasing the normal load across the area of contact. So that shows that every mechanical component what you are having will be having some capability to withstand the load from initial level to the enhanced, yeah, optimized load bearing capability. So after that, after it has reached that optimized loading point, even though if you increase the load, the amount of COF which is yielding in the copper will remain the same. So these are some of the properties which vary whether it is kept in open atmosphere or in a closed vacuum chamber. Here you can see a drastic coefficient of friction because it is not lubricated. You don't have an adhesion layer, or you don't have even a thin film of lubricant, or even a rough layer of grease is not applied. And hence you can see a drastic increase in the coefficient of friction. Usually in any material for that purpose, the COF value will be always below 1. It is increasing here drastically because it is unlubricated. So the chance of friction and the wear will be to the upper limit. And as a result, you cannot yield a better output and rely on that particular mechanical component for a longer run if you are using this for a continuous period of time. So if this kind of graphs are given, you should be able to explain in your own words. For that, you should be knowing the concept so that you can read the given graph. If by chance in the examination or in the internals, if it is asked to explain about the friction of metals, you should first substantiate like what is the importance of knowing the friction in any metal or non-metal. So which are the properties which are related. You can just write some examples as I showed you in the previous slide. And later, if it is asked to justify how the COF varies with respect to any material of your choice, then you should be able to understand and draw a graph and explain it accordingly. Here we are dealing with example by example. So the first example was without using an lubrication. So before that, it was a direct result of affecting the iron with respect to oxygen when it is kept in an open atmosphere. Even that will possess some amount of COF value. So next, here you have two data. This is done. And next diagram here, you can show the variation of COF which comes into picture when a pure bismuth material is sliding against the copper surface. So one of the material is bismuth and the other one is the copper. So both the bismuth and copper is now sliding against each other. Bismuth will be having its own set of properties and copper will be having its own set of physical and other properties. How the variation in coefficient of friction takes place. So that is being showed over here. Actually, truly speaking, okay, so here the tendency of coefficient of friction with respect to copper surface in area of contact is more than that of bismuth layer. If you are using bismuth with bismuth layer, means the mating part is also the same, then the amount of coefficient of friction you get will be comparatively smaller than that of copper. But if you're using both the surfaces made up of copper, then the amount of coefficient of friction you'll be getting will be more. But here it is not with respect to the load, it is with respect to the sliding speed. Initially, you can see that the speed with which the bismuth and the copper is sliding is around 100 meter per second. And slightly it has been increasing until 700 meter per second. So as the speed is increasing, the amount of coefficient of friction is also increasing. So this is how you have to justify, and you should also tell that which will be the optimum, whether to combine bismuth with copper or to go with bismuth and bismuth, because the COF value for bismuth is less and for copper it is more. So you should be able to read the graph and explain still elaborately. So next is we are understanding the COF with respect to different factors that you have to understand. First graph we spoke COF value with respect to the load subjection. So second one we understood with respect to the sliding speed, but wherein the COF value was always taken along the y-axis, only we are varying the x parameters. So next third one, here you can see it is with respect to temperature. So even we cannot always say that the material what you are using at room temperature will be having the same COF when it is being used at a higher temperature. It keeps on varying. Sometimes you might get some peak value suddenly during the transition temperature of that particular material because the material gets changed from one phase to that of another. Likewise, here we can see the COF value for cobalt sliding on the stainless steel. Okay, so here the load what they have applied is around 500 Newton across the contact point, and it is sliding at a speed of 25 mm per second. Okay, so now, sorry, 25 meter per second. So now here the graph is not related to either to speed or to the load. It is with respect to temperature. So this load will be the same until it slides, and the speed with which it is sliding is also constant. You are not varying either this sliding speed here or the load. Only the thing what you are varying here is the temperature. So with respect to that, now you can observe across the room temperature, the coefficient of friction was almost moderate, nearly equal to 0.5. And later, as the temperature started increasing, it exhibited still a better low coefficient of friction. But when after 300, when the temperature started increasing, you can see a drastic change in the COF value. It started shooting up drastically and it reached a maximum value near to 0.9. That shows that the transition temperature of the material is around 500 degrees Celsius. Due to this transition temperature, when the material comes near to transition temperature, the COF value is increasing drastically. So once that is reached, the phase of transition temperature is reached. After that, still if you enhance the temperature also, the COF value is coming down. So all these type of variation of COF with respect to all the parameters you should be aware of, at least for one example each. Then only you can substantiate the concept of theory to the metals and how COF varies with respect to temperature, with respect to speed, with respect to load, all these aspects. So this was about the frictional factor coming across with respect to the metals. Apart from metals in your syllabus, you have friction of non-metallic materials also. So when we speak about non-metallic materials, again, like 2 to 3 classification you can come out. One is like ceramics, polymers, etc. So we have to deal up the concept of friction related to non-metallic materials also. So now we are starting with ceramics. So ceramic is basically one of the non-metallic material, right? So usually ceramics are light in weight. Why? Because it has a very low density. But apart from a low density, it has a very excellent, good amount of mechanical properties. Why? It has good strength, stiffness factor, as well as hardness. And it can maintain this property even at high temperatures. And hence, ceramic is most widely used in high temperature applications as well. Okay, so this is the key important characteristics of ceramics. So the most commonly used ceramics with good strength, stiffness and hardness we can name in list in few, such as silicon nitride, silicon carbide, alumina or zirconia. So these are the most familiar ceramics of good mechanical properties. And you know that it is most commonly used in extreme environmental condition, because it should have stability at the high temperature. Along with that, it should be having the capability to bear high loads and to run at a high speed and to withstand the high temperature, and it should not be affected by the corrosive environment. So since it has all these significant importance, so ceramics can be used in very extreme conditions. Even in annealing and heat treatment and all, we use the capsule made up of ceramics to place the material and to heat it. Why? It has the capacity to withstand the high temperature more than 1800 degrees Celsius also, right? And as a result, we always go with the non-metals with respect to ceramics, where the extreme environmental condition is an important factor for that particular application. So further, one more thing what you have to understand is the mechanical behavior of ceramics usually differ from that of metals. Why? It has a different nature of interatomic forces. So the interatomic forces in case of metal is different, whereas the interatomic forces which come across between the atoms or the molecules in case of ceramic is different, and force of attraction, intermolecular phase arrangement, everything will behave in a different way, and as a result the mechanical behavior of ceramics will differ obviously from that of metals. In case of metals, you have metallic bondings, right? But whereas when you come into ceramics, you have ionic bonding, which is also called as covalent bonding, which comes across in ceramics. But whereas in metals, it is purely metallic bonding which come across. So this is a few prerequisite what you have to know about ceramics when we want to deal the concept of friction related to non-metallic materials under the category of ceramics. So similarly, now you have to compare the coefficient of friction value for ceramic materials. So here you have the graph which has fracture toughness across your x-axis and coefficient of friction towards your y-axis. So it is showing comparatively how the coefficient of friction value is varying with respect to the fracture toughness of some ceramics. Okay, so here what's happening is you have a sharp diamond pin on disc of silicon carbide, silicon nitride, alumina oxide and zirconium oxide. So these, you should be able to read the chemical formula properly if you're strong enough in your chemistry, right? So suppose if you have a disc made up of silicon carbide or silicon nitrate, aluminum oxide, yeah, zirconium oxide, and you have a sharp diamond pin on it, right? So how the coefficient of friction is varying with respect to the toughness that is being shown over here. You can see that to the least value of fracture toughness, the coefficient of friction was high, and as the fracture toughness capability of the material is more, the amount of coefficient of friction is coming drastically down. So that again speaks about what is the hardness, the strength and the toughness of the given material, so that the amount of coefficient of friction which is coming across will be nearly less or more. So this is about one of the ceramic example with respect to fracture toughness. Similarly, here we have the value of coefficient of friction with respect to normal load. So what's happening here is we are measuring coefficient of friction with normal load for a 60-degree diamond cone. The material what you're using is 60-degree diamond cone, and it is sliding over silicon carbide crystal. Again, if we tell silicon carbide crystal, you have to specify whether it is a single crystal, yeah, multi-crystal, yeah, multi-ions oriented crystal, what is its dipole moment, alignment, everything comes into picture. Okay, so you have to be specific. If you have a diamond cone on one hand, the other material what you're using is like silicon carbide, it is made up of single crystal. For single crystal, this is the lattice structure what you have to have, 0001 plane. Right, for single crystal always it comes with the Miller indices of 0001. So this is the face, single crystal face. So when it rubs against each other, yeah, slides against each other, So you can see the amount of variation in the coefficient of friction. So what do you understand from the graph over here? Initially, the coefficient of friction was nearly to zero point 0.3 when the load across the contact area was almost near to less than 1. But as the load started increasing, here we can see that the coefficient of friction value is coming down. But for a particular load, right, it was the least. So from there onwards, when the load was increased, so it again started increasing gradually, and then it got stabilized. So this is the optimized coefficient of friction. You cannot tell the least value as an optimized coefficient of friction value for this particular material, because you have to analyze the trend of the graph, how it is showing. It should be consistent at a particular load to say that this is the optimized COF value for that particular mechanical sliding between diamond cone as well as the silicon carbide. And hence, after analyzing only, we can come to know which is the exact stabilized optimized COF for the given material. And here you can see the error bars. The top and the bottom here shows the error bars. Like it shows the variation, the standard deviation variation. Means for every reading they have taken 3 experiments, 3 trials. So the COF value of this material at normal load of 1 is measured 3 times, and again at normal load 2 it is measured 3 times. Similarly, all the COF values across each normal load is measured 3 times. Then you find out what is the error bar. Then you will show the optimum COF values across all the normal loads. If you do like this, then only you get an accurate and stabilized values. Okay, that shows the accuracy also. Or else sometimes you measure one time, it shows some reading, again you try after some time, if instead of 0.3 if it shows 0.6, then there is no consistency at all in what you are measuring. So every measuring instrument should be calibrated well, it should be reliable, and the reading what it gives should be consistent. So to check that consistent, you have to always do the experiment 3 times for one particular reading. So then only you can substantiate which is right, and the average value will be taken as an optimized reading. So in that way, all the readings here are recorded, and then you will plot, and then you will analyze what is the stabilized coefficient of friction value for a particular material. Here in this case it is a diamond core versus the silicon carbide of a single crystal. Similarly, you have one more graph for silicon carbide against silicon nitride samples. So here the graph is with respect to coefficient of friction and the sliding speed. So we are taking all the parameters. First it was related to fracture toughness, then it was related to the normal load, and now we are taking with the sliding speed. With what speed? Both the materials are sliding against each other. Okay, so here you can see that the first is silicon carbide and the second one is silicon carbide nitrate. So this is a silicon carbide nitrate graph, and this is the silicon carbide graph. So here you can see the maximum coefficient of friction is for silicon carbide rather than that of silicon nitride graph. Right? So as the speed increases, the coefficient of friction for the silicon nitrate graph moves from 0.3 to 0.2. So it is almost very near, not a drastic change. Irrespective of the increase in speed, the amount of coefficient of friction is gradually coming down in between 0.3 to 0.2 only. But whereas in case of silicon carbide, you can see that the coefficient of friction was 0.5 at a lower sliding speed, nearly to 0.5 meter per second. And as the sliding speed increased, you can see that the coefficient of friction is drastically coming down, and it was almost near to 0.2. So when you have two materials with capability of high friction and low friction, so when both of it come together for sliding, so it mainly depends upon the contact area, right? through where the sliding come across, and with respect to that you will get the average coefficient of friction in between zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.3. But if you have both the materials rubbing against same mating element, then the coefficient of friction will be different. Because if you have both as in silicon carbide, so two mating elements of silicon carbide, then the coefficient of friction initially will be zero point 0.5 and later it reduces nearly to zero point 0.2. But if you have now two different elements, then the coefficient of friction, the average coefficient of friction will come in between half the value, between zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.3. So this is how the coefficient friction value varies when you have self-mating parts and when you have the other mating parts. So this you should be able to substantiate. And the next is you have the magnesia stabilized with zirconia and aluminum. Okay, so you have magnesium oxide with zirconium oxide and you have aluminium oxide here. So this is the combination of two non-oxide elements here, oxide and non-metallic oxide elements with magnesium oxide and zirconium oxide together. And this is a separate entity of aluminum oxide. So when these two are having the contact and sliding against each other, they haven't told with what about the load subjected or with what speed it has been traveled. Only the data what we have is what is the temperature to which the given non-metallic oxides are subjected to. So here we can see the alumina oxide at room temperature had a least coefficient of friction of around 0.2. Later, it drastically increased when the temperature was increased. So when it was nearly to 400, it reached the peak value of COF around 0.8. So once it reached 0.8, then it was almost consistent with slight reduction. That shows that phase transition of alumina oxide is nearly to 400. From there onwards, it is reducing the coefficient of friction value. So and next for magnesium oxide and zinc oxide, combination of non-metallic oxides. So here we can see the initial coefficient of friction was more than that of alumina oxide, and it increased and reached a peak value for 500 degrees Celsius, and then it reduced. That shows that the phase transition for magnesium and zinc oxide non-metallic components is more than that of alumina oxide. And due to this difference in phase transition, you will get difference in variation in the coefficient of friction also. If you have again same mating components, then the minimum coefficient of friction will be 0.2 and maximum will be 0.8. But if you have the mechanical components of two different combinations of non-metal oxides, then the minimum coefficient of friction will be in between 0.2 to 0.3. It becomes 0.25, and again the maximum will be in between 0.8 to 0.5. So somewhere in between will be the upper limit of coefficient of friction when subjected to the temperature from 200 to 1000 degree Celsius. So this is how it gets varied with respect to temperature wise as well as speed wise, sliding speed, and also the normal load and the toughness capability. Since it is ceramics, it will be having higher toughness. So we dealt the coefficient of friction with respect to toughness, and then with load, third with sliding speed, and fourth with temperature. So that covers our frictional part under non-metallic for ceramics. And lastly, we have friction of non-metallic materials with respect to polymers. So even polymers are a class of materials which does not fall into the category of metals. It is a non-metallic material. And once we say polymers, so it could be elastic or elastomers, right? So polymers again are very flexible material. It is not as hard as ceramics and not as compact and solid as in case of metals which have strong metallic bonding in it. it is totally different. Even though it is flexible and lightweight, it will be having its own properties, right? So whenever polymer is being shooted out, you should consider that it include both the elastics and the elastomers, right? And secondly, for any polymer, the coefficient of friction ranges will fall in between 0.15 to zero point 0.6. It cannot go more than zero point 0.6. And third property of the polymer, what you have to understand is polymer always exhibits a low friction in compared to metals and ceramics. Basically because it is a very soft material, it is flexible, and it is not hard and strong as our metals and ceramics, and obviously the frictional value will be comparatively lower than that of metals and ceramics. And next is we have some commonly used polymers. So these are called as high density polyethylene, okay, and also polyphenol sulfide and nylon. These are some, nylon is a naturally available polymer, and these are the man-made, the tailored polymers which are called as PPS, yeah, HDPE, yeah, whatsoever. And next thing what you have to understand is, apart from this, the commonly used elastomers also you should understand. These are naturally available. We call it as natural rubber and synthetic rubber as well. Okay, and some are being prepared by using betadine. So then you call it as betadine rubber. Apart from that, we have silicone rubber also. So these are tailored rubbers from the human mankind. And also it is told like it belongs to the category of self-lubricating solids. So these are the type of solids which are capable of self-lubricating. So polymers usually it come along in the form of liquid form also, right? And some from the liquid, if you just solidify while mixing polymers, if you mix two polymers, it releases in the formation of foam. And if you allow this foam to subside, then it results in the formation of a solid object, right? So it has a nature of to be in the liquid level to that of the solid form. So we can put this into a category of self-lubricating solids. And these are always feasible at normal temperature, or we can call it as a moderate temperature with reasonable amount of pressure. We cannot apply a heavy amount of load or a high temperature application in case of polymers. So it is always feasible to use these polymers at room temperature. So this is the information about polymers, what you have to be knowing when you want to focus the concept of friction under polymers. So now here you just a small example to analyze the coefficient of friction for the given polyethylene component. So the polyethylene component what you are having is of high density. Whenever you speak about the polymers, right, always you should see that you have a good density in the material what you are using. Already when you speak about density, it is in the form of an foam, and that foam should be of high density. If should be of high density, then the foam what you are using should be of rigid type. Remember, polymers can be fabricated in three ways. One is a rigid, semi-rigid, and visco type of foam. Viscoelastic foam we call it as. If it is a viscoelastic foam, the density of it might be higher, but it will be having the elastic nature. Even though if you compress, it can come back to its original position. The higher density foam will be harder than that of viscoelastic foams, okay, but still the density of it might be comparatively low. And one more thing is viscoelastic foams will be having more capability of energy absorbing behavior than that of rigid or semi-rigid foam. So based on the requirement, you should be able to select the polyurethane foam of higher density or lower density. In this case, you have a high density polyethylene material which is sliding against a glass. Okay, so you have a glass against which a polyethylene material is being slided. So what is the sliding distance? Here they haven't given you the sliding speed. remember, you have sliding distance along your x-axis and coefficient of friction along your y-axis. So now you can see at zero value of sliding distance, the coefficient of friction, obviously it will be 0. As the sliding distance increases with respect to increase in the sliding speed. So as the sliding speed is increasing, the amount of distance traveled also will be varying. It is in terms of mm. So when it started increasing, you can observe it shooted suddenly to nearly 2.28, right? And after that it came down, and it was consistent throughout, even though the sliding distance got increased. So this is how the variation of COF takes place with respect to the sliding speed, and it cannot be same for all the type of polyurethane foams. It again depends upon whether you are using high density or low density. Since it is of high density polyethylene, it's substantiated to reduce the coefficient of friction even though the sliding distance is increasing. Suddenly it cannot resist, right? High density will be having the capability to absorb energy. So when you have jerks due to movement of this high density polyethylene along with the glass, initially the friction peaks all of a sudden, but after that, due to high density, this polymers will be able to absorb these jerks and vibrations, and it helps to reduce the amount of friction because it acts as a self lubricating solid. That is one of the plus advantage of the polymers. So due to this lubricant solid type of embedded thing within the polymer, it gradually reduces the coefficient of friction. Then you can see a consistent COF value with respect to the sliding distance. This could be possible only with respect to the polymers. So by reading the graph, so by looking the graph, you should be able to read the graph properly and write down. So this is one of the example for frictional concept related to polymer. So here we are explaining this with respect to high density polyethylene. And similarly, we have the coefficient of friction here for polymethyl cryolite, which is in short called as PMMA. So what is happening here? So here you are checking how the variation of the coefficient of friction is coming with respect to subjection of the normal load. So this is the normal load, okay, for sliding across the cross cylinders, right? So you have two cross cylinders made up of PMMA. So it is called as polymethyl methacrylate with different surface roughness. So both the cross cylinders are having different surface roughness. So when you have different surface roughness, you will be obviously having variation in the COF values. So these cross cylinders are turning with respect to lathe turned and smooth polished. Means one surface of the cylinder you is using is due to the surface what you have generated by the lathe turning operation. So other one is the lathe turned operation cylinder has polished. So when you have in polishing, the surface roughness will not be too much. But whereas the other cylinder, which is just framed by using lathe, will not be having a smooth finish because smooth finishing is not done. And as a result, the surface roughness of that particular cylinder will be different. So now we are analyzing the coefficient of friction, what we are getting with respect to both the cylinders. Okay, so here we can see the normal load subjected with respect to the coefficient of friction value. So how it is varying. So this is a smooth reduction in the coefficient of friction in case of smooth surface, but whereas which is not fully smooth, you can see that initially the coefficient of friction was little higher. It was nearly 2.8. It was consistent enough for the load what you have subjected until 50 Newton. After this 50 Newton only, then it started reducing as the load bearing capability was enhanced. But whereas in case of smooth finish, due to smooth finish, as the load increased, the coefficient of friction increased drastically down. So this is how the comparison of coefficient of friction is done with respect to the same mating component with different surface roughness. So by looking to the diagram, you should be able to explain what is what. So this part covers your entire friction concept in our module 2. So from next slide, we will be dealing with related to wear. Where about the concept of wear we spoke about during the time of deformation theory only, right? In deformation theory, plowing came into picture. Plowing is a part of wear terminology, which results in having the deformation when you have mating components of two different materials. So when you have one hard material and one soft material, when both are sliding against each other, so what happens is due to the junction growth, the asperities from the hard material penetrates to the soft material and it results in the formation of flowing, which is nothing but wearing out of the materials. It could be at micro or macro level. That is one concept. Apart from that, there are other reasons due to which the wear come across. So all these you have to understand. So before going to it, the word wear is not a new word to you, right? So basically you know what you mean by and wear, which are the type of wears which come across with respect to which operations. You have studied all those previously. But still to just brush out, you can tell a wear is a type of erosion which come across due to the sideways displacement of the material. So when you have a mating component which slides against each other, the asperities will come across the sideways and hence these are called as the derivatives. So you will be having some surface formation in addition across the contact area, and that helps in forming the change in the original position of the solid surface. That is due to the mechanical action which come across with respect to the other mechanical component. So this usually happens when you have a harder material and a softer material. In this case, it is very essential to have a proper relative motion between the two surfaces because you should initiate the mechanical contact between the asperities. This is very important. If there is no proper mechanical contact between the asperities of the soft material and the hard material, flowing comes into picture and it results in wear to the extreme end. Okay. So what is the impact of wear basically? So impact of wear in reality, if you want to speak, it results in reducing the sliding motion where you need two solid bodies to slide against each other and get a required output. So if wear goes on increasing, then the amount of speed with which the sliding motion is occurring between the two mechanical components will be reduced, and what is the output you need from those two mechanical components cannot be achieved. So the efficiency of the relative motion, what you need across two mechanical components will be reduced. And as a result, wear should be reduced. If wear has to be reduced, you should select the mechanical component in such a way that it won't lead the asperities from one surface to grow across the other mating surface. And hence many things have to be considered to overcome the wear. So this is actual wear. Apart from the wear across the solid objects, the wear can come across in fluids also. This you have come across while operating any type of turbines, like it could be Pelton turbine or Francis turbine, anything in your fluid power systems. You have heard about the word cavitation. What do you mean by cavitation? Anyone? All the subjects you have studied already. Only thing is we are clubbing all together. Anyone, can you tell me what you mean by cavitation? Anyone in the class, please? It's not like one way explaining always and you people just listen. Even you should tell me know something. No answer. You have dealt with this already in working with different turbines. Pelton turbine, Francis turbine, cavitation come across, it reduces the efficiency, all those stuffs, it has to be overcome. Why? Any idea?
Formation of air bubbles,
Yes, formation of air bubbles. Why it come across?
due to difference in pressure of different areas of the turbine.
Yeah. So, due to the formation of voids, so when these voids come across the blades of the turbine, it causes a blast and that it results in the formation of voids. So, that will again impact on the blades of the turbine and it helps in the reduction of the speed and again the velocity triangle, everything gets changed. Again, it goes back to your turbine concepts. So, even in that case, the where part comes into picture. So we have to justify saying that the where will not come across only across the solid object, it also come across related to the fluid option flow also. That's what I wanted to tell. Okay, so the corrosion could be considered even in wear, but what is the damage it is causing, what is the amplified value which come across in the chemical reactions, that has to be studied and processed. Corrosion is again a part of chemistry. It depends upon the type of the material you are using. It depends upon the external environment, how the corrosion is coming into picture. And to get a layer of corroded surface, what are the reactions which are coming? So you have to analyze. So to overcome that corrosion, what is the coating layer you need across the surface? That also should be analyzed, because I told you initially only the corrosion is a part of an wear. You can put the word corrosion under the category of wear. So something disturbing across the surface for the movement of the mechanical bodies at the contact area. And hence it is also termed to be as wear. So when we speak about wear, you should be sure that it can come into picture across any solid object as well as even in the fluid, and even corrosion is considered to be a part of wear. Yes, one more slide I'll complete and I'll take the attendance. Once the attendance is done, I'll post the quiz is ready. I have to just post it. So you please take the quiz and then go for a lunch. Okay, 5 minutes. After this, I will just post the quiz. Since I was busy with some other thing, I could not post today, but the quiz is ready. So before that, what I want to tell you is why usually the wear occurs. So you know wear usually occurs due to different environmental features. It depends upon the working environmental features, like the direction of sliding. Is it unidirectional sliding or it is to and fro sliding motion, or how it is moving? Is it a reciprocating motion? Yeah, whether it is rolling continuously. Yeah, you have the impact of loads across the rolling component, what is the speed with which it is moving, and what is the temperature within which you are keeping the mechanical components and getting the required relative motion. So based on all these categories, the amount of wear you are getting will vary. It will not be the same for all type of mechanical components. Again, it depends upon the material what you are using and the type of motion, the temperature and the speed with which it is either sliding, you are revolving, you are reciprocating, yeah, whatsoever. So these are the reason why wear comes into picture when you have some moving component with respect to the other for a required output. And later there are different stages of wear. What you have to understand, it is related to primary, secondary, tertiary stages and all. Okay, and you have the type of wears which come. Basically it is of abrasive type, surface fatigue wear and erosive wear. All these we will study in our next class. At this time I will just stop my presentation here. After the class and quiz will be posted. So see that all of you take the quiz on time. And now I will start with today's attendance. Kindly everyone do answer. In the meantime, type your name and USN in the chat room also. Akhil? Anil Kumar?
Ma'am, you didn't call out my name, ma'am. Abdul.
Yeah, Abdul, your name is at the end. I'm sorry. Abdul, you're present, right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm present, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Anil Kumar? Anil
Ma'am,
Kumar?
present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
Oh, okay, okay. Ankesh Aman?
Yes, ma'am.
Gautam Krishna?
Yes, ma'am.
Balaji VR?
Yes, ma'am.
Beldar Mohammed?
Present, ma'am.
Chaitanya? Chaitanya is our absent. Chetan Kumar?
Present, ma'am.
Dheeraj?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Ishant? Okay. Harshit S? Harshit S? Absent. Himanka?
Present, ma'am.
Kanishka Reddy? Kanishka absent. Nagamurli Krishna?
Ma'am, Kanishka is present, ma'am. He typed in the chat box.
Kanishka is present. Okay. Nagamurli Krishna? Absent. Kunal Raj?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Danush? Mohammad Ayan?
Present, ma'am.
Mohammad Junaid? Okay. Shri Prasad?
Yes,
Shri
ma'am.
Prasad?
Yes, ma'am.
Niharika? Nihar? Nihar Venkat Sai? Nikhilar?
Ma'am.
Yeah. Nirab?
Yes, ma'am.
Prajwal? Okay, he's in FM, Financial Management, someone told me. Prajwal?
Present, ma'am.
Prajwal?
Present, ma'am.
Rishabh Pandey? Yeah. Listen. Rishabh Pandey?
Present, ma'am.
Rohan? Rohan?
Ma'am, which Rohan?
Okay. Roshan Yadav? Roshan? Absent. Sumant Sagar?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Sagar Dutt? Mathur?
Present, ma'am.
Sagar GV?
Present, ma'am.
Sanjay Raghav?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Shobit?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Siddharth? Both the Siddharth are there. Siddharth B and Siddharth Sridhar. Today both are out. Both the Siddharths absent. Subramanya?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Tirumani Sethi Rohan?
Yes, ma'am.
Ulas U? Okay. Vidyan Prakash?
Present, ma'am.
Vidyan? Okay. Varun?
Present, ma'am.
Yeah. Pavan?
Present, ma'am.
Danush? 16ME064. Dhyanesh Kumar? Dhyanesh Kumar? Gunasagar?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Meghanatha?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Rasik Baran?
Present, ma'am.
Yeah. Shiv Krishna? Shreyas L? Srinivasalu absent. Yogananda?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Kiran R? Okay. Shiv
Hello?
Pavan? Yeah,
Ma'am,
hello?
ma'am, Danush, ma'am, I got disconnected from the call. I think I missed out my name, ma'am.
Danush 16ME064.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have made it present.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Shiv Pavan?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Gautam Sai?
Present, ma'am.
Yeah. Gautam Sai, you are absent very regularly. Why?
No, ma'am. I was only absent for 22nd and 23rd. That's it, ma'am.
No, initially you haven't attended like 2nd September, 3rd, 5th September. Again, you were absent on 19th, 23rd also. Please be regular. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So now shortly I'll be posting the quiz. Kindly take it during the lunch break. Okay, and see that you complete on time. So until the next class, take care, be safe, and you have the test approaching. Hope probably you will be having 1.5 module. I'll just let you know exactly what will be the portion, and pattern will be similar to the last semester, where you'll be having a case study and one innovative question apart from the theory questions. So I'll send you the pattern, the format, how the paper will be, and with the portion shortly. Kindly do prepare for your internals. Don't wait until the last moment. So please take care and have a nice day. Varun and team can be in the meet and others can leave the meeting. Thank you all.